Yes, it's a special time of the year. We are 3 nights away from State of Origin 1 at Suncorp. The teams have been named. We've had a week to think about the selections and get keen for Rugby League's biggest event, plus all the action from the last couple of weeks in the NRL. We'll talk some footy, some Aussie rules footy. We'll talk some NBA playoffs. It looks like the Pacers are going all right, and a little bit of fight today from the Wolves. We'll talk a little bit of Biffs. Jack Della Maddalena becomes champion in the UFC. That means we've got not one but 2 Aussie current champs. That's the first time that's ever happened in UFC history. And one of the premier racing events in the F1 calendar at Monaco, about to kick off in about 3 hours' time. This is On The Esky. It's an Aussie sports podcast. We like our Aussie sport. We like our US sport. We like to have a little bit of a laugh and a dribble. On YouTube, we have timestamps. You can skip the sports that you like, or if you're nuffy like us, just check out the whole thing. We have Instagram, Facebook, X. Check it out. And if you're stumbling across this page for the first time on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We like to start the show by shouting a beer to recognise elite sporting performance in the week or few weeks that it's been since we last had a pod. Shauno, donning the Maroons gear on my left. How are you? And who are you shouting a beer tonight?
Pains me. It hurts the soul, but we're not talking much cricket today, so I figured I better shout a beer out to Joe Root. He's officially hit the 13K, the 13,000 runs, test runs, that is. He goes to 5th overall. He's behind Dravid, Callis, and Punting. All 3 he should probably get this year. I think they're all within about 300 odd runs of himself, and with 9 matches to play this year, 5 against India and 4 against Australia in this calendar year, that he should probably get there. Then the question is, how far can he go? We've got Sash in there at 15,921. If Root, say, plays another 50 matches, the equivalent of what Sashin's got on him at the moment, I think he'd go pretty close. Got to remember, Sashin played 24 years across, starting very young for India. Root so far 13. But I think the key thing, Sashin retired at 40. That's 6 years away for Root. He's 34. Over the last 6 years, he's averaged about 1,000 runs. So if you take that, if he has 3 good years, hits it in. But, it depends on where he gets to. He's got 2 tough series outings this year, and we'll see how many runs he gets. But I think he'll play at least the next 2 years in 36. And then I think that question is kind of where we got to with Vera, where does Vera get 10K with his age and what's around? And we found out recently that he's going to retire. That question of where does Joe Root go and how far he thinks he goes. If he plays 40 to 40 in another 50-odd matches, he might get 17,000. Yeah. So
he'll get first-handedly, I'd say.
Yeah, he could get first by a big margin and have that record for a very long time. So it'll be interesting to see how to follow his test career to see how it goes. But hopefully against Australia in the Ashes, he goes duck, 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 duck.
I think you're right. He's going to go past Ponting, Callis, Dravid in 2025, you'd imagine. All of them are in the lower end of the 13,000s. So Punter's second with 13,378, and then Callis and Dravid are in the 13,200s. So sort of nipping at the heels of Dravid and Callis, and then just another 100 odd to go past Punter. It's interesting as well. Like if he does go to number 1 in terms of most test runs, will some Aussies actually put some respect on the bloke's name as well? Because there's so much of the rhetoric down under as well. He doesn't do it in Australia, and he doesn't do it in
English favoured.
Yeah, exactly right. I think the cricket he's been playing in the last 24 months, it's too hard to play that card these days. I think, around 2020, 21, you could sort of play that card. And of course, they're always going to cop, well, they play so much test cricket, of course, he's going to get, on aggregate, the most runs ever. Like, it's pretty fucking incredible achievement.
Still, like, you look at the matches and, he's got to play another 47 to equal Sashin anyway, so...
Yeah, he might not get... I don't think he'll get him for matches, but I think he'll get him for runs.
Yeah, which you'd say overall, then he's done... You can't say he's played too much cricket. Maybe he's played too much cricket in the time frame.
Yeah,
he'll play a, say, 16, 17-year career versus a 24.
Yeah, that's right. He didn't debut at 18 and played at 40. He was a mere mortal and, made his test debut in his early 20s. Yeah. But yeah, it's a massive achievement. There's only 6 of them there in that 13th, or 5, I should say, in that 13,000 club. Yep. and more than likely goes to 2 this calendar year. So enjoy your beer, courtesy of the Esky Joe Root. Hopefully he has 10,000 of them before the before the Ashes, and still struggles in the Aussie conditions. We've got a bit of cricket to play before then. In fact, in a couple of weeks' time, I think we might have a friend of the show, Steam, with us to talk some World Test Championship. It's definitely creeping up.
Before we go to your shout of beer, I just want to bring up this Porsche race in Monaco started the exact same way that F2 did, looking like Tuggeranong Parkway after a bit of rain. That was your joke. First corner, they've had a big pile up and there's about 20 cars into each other. That's 2 races in a row. Foreshadowing maybe for the F1 race.
So, they've both been on the first turn as well.
First turn of the start of the lap. So, they've managed to clear this pretty well. But, they had a big pile up there after the first corner.
That's it. And with the starting lineup for the F1, it's going to be very fiery first corner as well. So
Lando usually doesn't do too well on pole, so there is that. We'll see. But a bit of a mess for the start of the Porsche race leading into F1.
I'm going to shout Scotty Scheffler a beer. He won his 3rd major last week. The kind of golf that he's been playing, you kind of expect him to win a lot more. That was at the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow, finished up about a week ago. He did it easy in the end, 5 strokes over Bryson DeChambeau, Harris English, Davis Riley. The bloke has got now 15 tour wins before he's turned 29. I was reading the only other 2 players to do that are Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. So reasonable company to be in there. He's also won 9 PGA events in the last 15 months. So kind of happy to see him win a major. Maybe a slight knock on him is he doesn't have a huge bag of majors to his name just yet. So to go along with his 2 Masters, he's got a PGA Championship there. And courtesy of the Esky, a prestigious shout of beer. Well done, Scotty Scheffler.
Do you remember that Tiger Woods stat? The one that like Scottish Scheffler's got to keep this pace for like 9 more years to which I find wild, but
it's pretty incredible, and it makes you wonder. Like obviously before our time, how good was Jack Nicklaus at golf? The fact that he has more majors than Tiger Woods, and Tiger Woods for us growing up, outside of golf, maybe the most dominant athlete in sport. It's pretty hard to think of someone dominating their sport the way that Tiger did in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's obviously it's massive for Scotty, but it is testament to how good Tiger was for so long, and just being able to pump it out for so long. We've seen in golf as well, and going back to the Masters and Rory getting his first major in 10 years, and guys being able to win majors at an early age. We saw it with Jordan Spieth. We've seen it with a few players in previous years. But then to actually be able to consistently go in there calendar year after calendar year and win majors consistently is really, really hard. The other thing that Scotty does is when he wins majors, he wins big. So he won this one by 5 strokes. I think all of his majors he's won by, I think it was 4 or 5 plus. When he's on a roll, he's nearly impossible to beat. And he'd won, it was only 2 weeks before that he won the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson, by 8 strokes as well. So he's just blowing the rest of the field out of the water. He probably doesn't look 28. He looks like he's a little bit older than probably what he is. But
out in the sun a lot.
Coming out into his prime, and like you said, the way that he's playing could be playing like this for another 5-10 years and end up with double-digit majors. But there's one to add to his 2 Masters, and we'll keep a keen eye on him, and obviously the resurgence of Rory. It's a good time for golf.
Do you think it's the fact that he hasn't won more is because of consistency, or just because there's so many good players out in the tours at the moment?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? Yeah, you think about where the competition's at and how good Bryson has been able to become over the last few years, and also the effect I think that Liv sort of played as well, with those guys coming away but then getting the automatic Masters, automatic majors if they've won before, so they can still come back. It's an interesting time for golf. But I think to answer your question, I think the competition is probably as stiff as it's ever been. Not to say that Woods was playing against chumps week in week out, but it's really comes down to conditions, and you make one mistake in golf, and you see it all the time that someone's cruising and they chunk one or put one in the water, and there goes their whole 4 rounds. But the mental strength that he's got is what you have to have for being an elite golfer. But yeah, he hits bombs and his approach play is incredible. And then obviously doesn't make mistakes. He's a fucking robot.
That's it.
Yeah.
Who have you got?
Yeah.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. There was a few interesting ones I could have chosen from this week. I've gone a controversial one. So I've gone Christian Kolomev. Close enough. He is a Greek swimmer who just broke the 50-meter world long format world record with a 20.89
with a big asterisk.
with a big asterisk. So yes, the world record that never will be. I'm shouting him a spiked beer because he he is juiced to the gills, so to speak. So leading up into the controversial enhanced games, I think they're going through trials at the moment.
Yeah, next year I think it's the event, and they had a big marketing push in the recent weeks, of course, based off this as well.
That's it. So I'll take it back almost a year to the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. He came fifth. With a 21.59, so shaved. What's that like?
7/10.
Yeah,
7/10.
Yeah,
ish.
Yeah, 7/10. Call it.
Yep, off his own time, and also smashed Cam McAvoy, our Aussie, who won gold in that race.
Yeah, clean gold though.
yeah, clean gold. Albeit he did only break the record by 0.02.
Yeah, which is from a Brazilian guy. Again, we keep saying about breaking records, this and that. He has swum faster than the fastest clean athlete has ever swum over 50 metres.
Over 50 metres, yeah.
With a super suit.
With a super suit.
Yeah.
So we're watching them before. The super suit it plays into it nearly as much as the juice. It
Well, that's it. I think because we saw two videos. The first video, he didn't have the super suit on. He was like 21 seconds something as well. Yeah. And then with the super suit on,
So the super suit probably gave him that last quarter of a second, I think, from the videos that we were watching. Yep. Infamously, $1 million to anyone that can do it. So I think he's earned himself $1 million. Is that your understanding of it? Or
that was my understanding. Yep.
Yeah. And then down under, James the Missile Magnuson, who a little bit probably more progressed in his career than the Greek fella. Famously on Hello Sport podcast said, juice me to the gills, and he's going for the $1 million and looks absolutely jacked.
He does.
In the photos of him. So he'll be going close to going under that 20.89. Incredible sort of time to be alive in that this is getting a lot of traction and a lot of people. I'm kind of interested. We're all kind of want to see what's humanly possible.
Can you give that caveat though that it's none of it was anabolic? It's all.
Oh, I got corrected on Facebook comments for this. So technically, taking testosterone itself is anabolic. I think anabolic just means that you put on muscle mass. Yeah, they're not taking any of the real nasty stuff.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So what the 70s and 80s
probably got TRT,
Eastern Germans were getting injected with allegedly. Yeah, these boys are on growth hormone, TRT, and peptides, essentially, and plus a super suit, and so
whatever technology.
Look, I'm not saying that it's healthy. All I'm saying is it's a relatively clean stack to what Joe Blow down at your local fucking Gold's Gym is pumping into himself.
Yes.
That's all.
It.
That's all it is. And I think they're doing it under super. Like they're elite athletes. They're not just
the corporation that seems to be running this has a bit thought out pretty well, and it seems like they have a lot of support as process of actually doing the medication to see where they can get to.
Yeah. Not so much support from sports governing bodies around the world.
No,
a lot of people that
professional athletes hate it.
A lot of people that are really, really upset about it.
Well, I think I can't remember if it was the UK sporting body, but they were saying if anyone competes in this, I think they're banned for
done.
good.
Which is interesting that this Christian Kolomev has opted to go for it, given that he was fifth and in a 50-meter race.
How old is he though?
He's only 31. as well. Yeah. So, maybe he's thinking, well, I'll be 34 come LA. I can't get round to the next Olympics. He's from...
I'm cashing in now.
Yeah, he's from Eastern Europe, maybe, a bit of cash in hand. Swimming's not known for its big paydays. Maybe can't blame him in that regard. But, I can see why a lot of people are pissed off because, what kind of messages it's sending. You do anything for money, this young generation.
Yeah.
I'm just
interested to see how far they can push the human race. That's just like, what can they set as the human limit?
Well, we're talking about the 100-metre sprint and how fast. Imagine if Usain Bolt, he's got no cash incentive to do it. But.
True, but well, was it Michael Johnson? Famously,
I think he was doing it.
Famously,
allegedly.
But you see, like his records have so far pushed the sport. Like I'm just saying, you set a benchmark. It's like, hey, a dude runs a 9-second 100 meters. You're just like, maybe that's actually possible. And it's just like,
I reckon that's a stretch.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's probably a stretch, but I'm just using that as
get out on the juice.
Well, he probably doesn't need it.
I'm just saying, like using that as an example. It's like, hey, that's a benchmark that people could then potentially aspire to. So it's like, what can we do to move that needle? Because that record's slowly been coming down over time. Like all the records are, as things improve and grow, etc. They slowly have been coming down over time. So it's whether that kind of sets a new benchmark. It was like, well, this is the official natural record. What can we do to close the gap?
I suppose so.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's we live in a world where if you're consenting to do something and the risks and it's your body, your choice. A lot of people are just like, well, who cares? But there are a lot more of and it's typically the older type heads that are like, no, like it's not a good look for any sport or for young people or for whatever, and it's all a bunch of hoopla. But clearly we're talking about it on the internet and it's been all through my news feed in the last couple of weeks. That's for sure.
So speaking of that, do you want to go into the mop of some potential stomping?
Yeah, so from the new world of sport to a sport which we always talk about on here, and it's not always for the right reasons. Pretty ordinary look in the women's rugby game last weekend here in Canberra in the Wallaroos versus USA from USA player Alev Kelter. She gets a mop from the Esky for rucking on the head of the Wallaroos player intentionally, strikes her a few times. She's lucky that none really connected. Some were sort of glancing, but there was certain intent to ruck the head, which has been out of rugby union for a very long time. Rucking in itself has sort of been out, and rucking the head, it's something that we haven't seen. Haven't seen it for quite some time. We were watching some talking heads talk about it. She's going to get 12 weeks. They're going to throw the book at her. The double mop is she gets 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yep.
So we see 3 weeks for some of these tackles that we see that gets on the collar.
Some of the seckies are getting 3 weeks.
That's right, man. We're like, what is going on in rugby? So I suppose the fact that our girl is okay and she doesn't get
there wasn't a clear curb stomp. Like it looks bad, but it could have been worse. I think is maybe where they come from. But I don't think they would be overly oppressed with that.
Terrible look for the game and something that I haven't seen in rugby for quite some time. So mop for you, Alev, and mop for whoever else is handing out 3 weeks suspensions for rucking of the head. Some interesting points to talk about in Super Rugby. They are coming to the pointy end of their season. The Brumbies, ACT Brumbies, were actually up on top of the ladder leading into this round. They didn't play. They've slipped back down to third, but they will play finals for sure. Yep. So keep an eye on how the Brumbies go. And then also last night, a sort of one-sided scoreline as the Chiefs beat Moana Pacifica 85-7. That is the highest in the Super Rugby Pacific era and the third highest margin in Super Rugby. It's an interesting time for rugby. We've got the British and Irish Lions tour upcoming. Hasn't happened for 12 years. Always a lot of excitement in the rugby community around that. And we've also seen, the Australian teams, the Brumbies especially, but some of the Australian teams, the Reds as well, haven't gone too bad. Actually being relatively competitive. And look, I'm not saying that we're going to see an Australian winner in the Super Rugby, but there's at least some hope, and then that hope maybe translates into the Bledisloe and Four Nations a little bit later. But mop for Alev Kelter and watch the Brumbies final round of the Super Rugby regular season is next week.
Some rugby league, Jimmy?
Yeah, hit that button. Winning 28-6 in that one. He had 2 tries, 270 run meters, 4 goals, 4 tackle passes. I was thinking, we were talking about it the week before. I said, Jacob Kiraz on the outside of Stephen Crichton. Is that going to be our New South Wales Blues outside backs? Kiraz gets hurt. Lomax says, look, I'm in career best form. The fact that I'm coming off an injury, give me one game to prove it. And absolutely goes out and proves it and gets his Blues jersey back. The Dogs, they beat the Roosters 24-20, and a lot of talking point around movements for the Chooks. Dom Young, been told he can look elsewhere, and Brandon Smith officially over to South. Yep. So still rehabbing that ACL. But yeah, a lot of that
was effective immediately as well.
Yeah, I think he's already. Yeah.
He's been training.
He's already.
I think
he's pretty close to coming back.
Interviews in red and green, I think.
Yeah, actually true. Yeah.
Wires beat Finns. Manly beat Cowboys, but Jake Turbo has a concussion. That's his second in the last month of footy. I think technically he could have just made it back for Origin, but I don't know if it was him or medical staff or just not getting picked. Didn't make the Blues team, which makes way for a new captain, which we'll get to in a sec. Cronulla beat Melbourne. They got a pretty good run in recent years. The Storm actually haven't won at Shark Park since 2017. Mighty Dragons get a win up there in Brizzy. Raiders beat Titans and South Sydney beat the Tigers. Everything Tiger talk in the last week has been, where is Lockie Galvin going to end up? It's not pen to paper, but multiple sources reporting today that him going to the Bulldogs is going to be announced tomorrow or early this week.
Yeah, I think at the start of the week, Tigers have finally relented and said they'll let him go for a fee, so if they get some cash back. Then he said today, picking between the Eels and Doggies, that his preferred option to sign is with the Bulldogs. He likes their offer they've given him, so I think the paperwork is now a formality. So, yeah, he's going to be a Doggy from as early as next week, by the sound of it.
Scary thought to think that the team running first might have one of the brightest young half talents as well.
Yeah, but with the question there, he's not really a traditional 7, and he'll have to play 7, and then that's a bit tough on, was it Sexton?
Who's actually been playing really well.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, there's a few things I suppose they could look at. Does Galvin slot straight into 6? Burton goes back in the centres. They could look at that. Does Lockie Galvin need a few weeks in the New South Wales Cup anyway to sort of find a bit of form? But yeah, you'd feel if you're Toby Sexton, that's been a big part of this team's resurgence. And I remember having this conversation 18 months ago and just saying, no, look, they got no 7, they can't be good.
Yeah.
And then I'm not saying that Toby Sexton's.
Well, that was in our preview we said the exact same thing. Where
this year,
I think we said we're better, but we want to for them to improve. We want to see their spine improve. And that's that improvement is what's led them to be first. I don't think we had any expectations they were going to be first. We thought they'd be good, but not as good.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. A lot of rumours that he might have had links with Parramatta. His manager is Isaac Moses.
For the Eels. The Eels lost out on trying to get a Dylan Brown replacement.
So, yeah, it looks like it's going to go ahead, and then, we could see him in blue and white in the not-too-distant future.
Yeah.
So reading reports here, so the deal believed to be worth $750,000 per year.
Money.
Which is a fair chunk less than what the Tigers had on the table for him.
Yeah, Tigers were going for more than $1 million, so I don't know if that speaks something to Tigers' locker room or something.
He wanted out, suppose.
And the whole bullying thing that's still ongoing, I think. And players in the Tigers locker room posting on their socials and sticking the boot into a 19-year-old kid. So he's clearly gotten a few people offside. I suppose we see it happen a lot for next season, that guys say, no, I'm off contract and I'm going to look elsewhere. He was contracted for all of next year. So essentially saying to boys, well, I'm looking at 18 months into the future. That probably got a lot of people offside in the locker room.
That's it.
It's a huge loss for the Tigers, and you look at the guys that they have lost over the last 12, 15 years, and Tedesco and Pappenhausen and all kinds of guys come up in that list. You just hope it's not a perpetual thing for the West Tigers, have been playing some reasonable footy.
Yeah, they've been a bit better this year, that's for sure.
So if everything goes ahead, he could be playing King's birthday long weekend up against the Eels.
Oh, geez. You go.
I was going to talk about DCE.
Yeah, DCE.
Yeah, so the note there was that he's confirmed he's going to play on. He's not retiring. And the two teams he's talking to is Roosters and Finns, and he will make a decision post-Origin. That was the news from Queensland camp. So sounds like he's pretty close. And that rumour for the Roosters has then meant Smith is potentially on the outer as well and might be looking for a new club, and he's been pretty decent for them.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because Hugo Savala's been really good as well.
And Walker's going to come back at some point.
Yes. So what's going to happen? It's obviously DCE's going to make up his mind. I think it's probably going to be a contract versus heart thing, although the Finns should have a bit of money to throw at him. He famously, I think his first 10 years of his life in Redcliffe proper. I think the Dolphins junior system, that was where he first played.
Great storyline to go back to Redcliffe.
Watch this space. Me as a Dragons fan, I'd certainly rather him go to the Finns than the Sharks. The old sombrero and all the other headlines that'll come out of it. But watch this space. He's the oldest player in the NRL this year, 1989 vintage. And it's if he's going on, you'd expect probably a 2-year contract.
Yeah, I think that's what he's after, 2 years.
Let's quickly wrap up the week. Speaking of the Finns, they hammered Canterbury Friday night. Canterbury in wet weather, no good, because this happened a month ago when they went up to Suncorp.
Well, I think no critter, they're no good as well. So.
That is true. He is very, very
He carries that team on his back sometimes. That game against the Raiders last week where they were out, smashing them for the first half, he turned the whole game around.
Yeah, he sure did. Like, he terrorises people and defending him, second in from the wing would be a thing of most centres' nightmares, I'd reckon. It wasn't just him missing, though. Obviously, we spoke about the Kiraz injury. Yep. Max King gets
called up for Origin.
Yeah, called up for Origin. Jacob Preston was in the Origin camp and serving a suspension. Kurt Mann is the 18th man for Queensland. A few unavailable there for Canterbury. It does make you wonder, though. Are they legit? We've seen a few games where they've just really been blown off the park. In the last month. You wouldn't expect that out of the team running first, but they didn't get the 50 burger put up on both counts, so they can't put a line on them just yet. Para beat Manly pretty comfortably. Dean Hawkins steering the ship in the absence of Mitch Moses. We're going to talk Penrith. Last night, Newcastle 25, Penrith 6. That means the Panthers are dead last with a few teams jumping them on buys.
That is absolutely wild.
Missing 5 from
they are missing 5. Newcastle just missing KP. You've got to be pretty concerned about their defence if you're Ivan Cleary. 25 points isn't drastic, but Newcastle averages 12. And it was 24-0 after 50 minutes. They probably took the foot off the pedal a little bit there as well. So, I don't know what's going on with Penrith. I think everyone's sort of expected a little downturn this year, but when we were doing our predictions, I think we also had them in the top 8.
Yep.
No one had them running dead last.
No, not this bad.
You start having the conversation about what week can you put a line through them as well. It's going to be really,
coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard in this Origin period with their New South Wales stars all out. Clearly they're pretty ordinary without them.
Yep.
Haven't
been great with them either. But
that is true. That is true. We'll talk about that when we get to the Origin teams. And credit to Newcastle, they've been looking pretty ordinary themselves as well. Chooks had a big win, 42-16 over the Sharks. We just spoke about Hugo Savala. He's looking pretty good. He's a big halfback. 195 centimetres, 100 kilo, huge. So there's another option there. Maybe, he might want to play half, but maybe he could play somewhere else. Maybe he could play a ball playing 13. They seem to be all the rage these days. It's going to be interesting, particularly if DCE puts pen to paper. But it's going to be interesting before then. Just with Sammy Walker coming back, and does Sandon Smith go back to Carp? Does Savala, like I said, play a different position? I don't know. Does one of them play as a utility? It's a good problem for Trent Robertson to have. That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then this Arvo.
Game of the round, I reckon.
Yeah, Raiders win a gritty 16-10 over there. Another sell in the pouring rain on a Sunday night. Up the wires fever sells out Go Media Stadium again. Pretty incredible what their fans are doing. It's in the post-COVID return to New Zealand era. Unfortunately, their boys didn't get the job done for them. Raiders definitely gave them an opportunity with that Tom Starling high shot.
Yep.
The bloke's
Very
only
late.
knee-high to a girl as it is.
He got on the step ladder to get up there.
There was a fair bit of niggle in that game. Tarpanay always seems to be at the centre of it.
Yeah, I think the crowd was giving it to him as well. So.
Well, him and Aaron Clark about 2 minutes prior to that had gotten into a little bit of argy-bargy, and Starling was sort of the mediator in between it. That obviously went to his head. Didn't cost him, but I can imagine what was going through Ricky's head after he's seen that with 3 minutes to go. But Raiders hang on.
Literal steam coming off Ricky, I reckon.
I'd reckon so. And these two teams are the surprise packets of the season, both in the top four.
Yeah.
Yep. Should we run through a ladder? Before
I was going to check with the way the Raiders win. Where does that put them?
Second.
They are second.
So Dogs 20, Raiders 18, Warriors 18. Warriors are third with a -1 points difference. That makes sense. Melbourne in fourth on 16, and then Sharks and Souths 5 and 6 on 14. North Queensland 13, rounding out the top 8 is the Broncos with 12, and it's absolute logjam.
Yeah, 12
okay.
all the way through to
So Manly, Dragons, Roosters, Tigers, all on 12th. That's 9 through 12, and then more logjam. Dolphins, Newcastle, Parramatta, Titans, all on 10, and then Lonely down the bottom on 9 points, Penrith Panthers. That's one saving grace, when we're going back to the Panthers and, when he's putting a line through
the
them,
mathematical line.
they're 3 points out of the top 8.
Yeah.
That's how tight the bottom end of the competition is this season. But absolute logjam from Broncos down essentially. Or Cowboys are only 1 point ahead there as well. So.
Yeah, I did want to highlight the Storm there. They got a game in hand on most of those guys, and 2 on the Raiders, for example. So you expect them to be higher, but their points differential at 135 it clearly jumps out against everyone else.
It's Sharks, not Storm. Sharks and Raiders have got all their buys up their ham.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just the way that the draw has worked out this year. There's some teams that have seemed to play each other, 3 or 4 weeks apart. Yep. And then, there's some teams that have already had 2 buys, and then most have had 1, but some teams have got all their buys up their sleeve.
Yeah.
So those teams are the Raiders, the Sharks, the Dolphins. So with 6 points in the bank, geez, maybe locking the Raiders for top 4.
Yep.
That might be hyperbolic to say that in May.
They're on a good run.
Yeah, with 6 up their sleeve and the attacking footy that they're playing. Looking good for the milk, that's for sure. Talk quickly about Perth.
Yep.
So,
officially announced.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. A bit of an interesting video there from their premier, Roger Cook. $65 million deal announced on his social media. It's interesting time for sport, interesting time for politics. So they haven't announced if it's going to be 27 or 28, but we can definitely expect it in the next 3.5 years.
27 is all the stuff that I've seen reported.
Because PNG is confirmed for 28. Is that what they're aiming for?
Yes. Okay. I believe that is the case.
And then Gus was saying tonight.
Because 28, I think, is the end of the TV deals as well.
Okay, yeah.
From memory.
Yeah, so that's going to play into things. And then the long-term goal is 20 teams by 2030. I think Verlanders has said that multiple times. Yeah. Gus was saying on Channel 9 tonight, and we always talk about this second New Zealand team, I should say, being from the South Island. He's like, just running them out of Auckland.
Yep.
He's like, it makes sense. You look at them consistently selling out for the Warriors. Buy-in might be hard, but we thought that might be the case with the Dolphins as well. And, they're probably top 5 for crowds at the moment in the NRL. So if your city's big enough, there's enough infrastructure there, and their rugby league mad enough, it maybe makes sense to run a second New Zealand team out of Auckland. Monk's has got a potential squad there for the Perth Bears, which has Lockie Galvin on there. There's that man, Sandon Smith, that we're just talking about. So if he finds himself on the outer, I keep seeing David Fafita linked to him. Who else have we got in there? Jai Gray's been playing out of his skin for South. Nick Meaney, Lindsay Smith, that'd be a good signing. That Talon De Silva is interesting. So he was pretty much saying, if Coruscant's around and I keep playing limited minutes, I'll look elsewhere. So that could be one there. You look at that. I don't think that team that they've got listed there is groundbreaking by any stretch.
But it's a serviceable squad to bring in the first year of competition.
And it's all speculation, obviously, just around contracts and current clubs and whatnot.
Yeah. Billy Walters is the interesting one there because his dad, old Kevy, has been heavy connected to that job. He said he's very interested in it. So him and Brad Arthur have been the most connected to that role. But
also Mal Meninga. That he became. And then there's some rumours about Sam Burgess. So
yes,
it'll be interesting to see when a coach gets announced. You'd think if it's 2027, they'd want to have their coach by next year. You'd think.
I think that's what happened with Wayne and Finns is he had 2 years to build a club.
So, watch that space in terms of coaching, and then they'll probably look up for a few marquee signings. We're talking about pre-show as well. The geography of Perth might play into things as well. You can fly direct from Perth to London. I wonder if they will look for possibly a couple English imports. Need to pack their SPF 50, that's for sure, living in Perth. Marks was saying maybe a few South African rugby players. Very hard to probably break into the Springboks.
It would be.
I'd reckon a few outside backs, short flight from South Africa, going over and play. We haven't really seen that, but pure speculation.
No, pure speculation. I think we're also saying that Flanders was floating the idea that he would be happy with the Western Force sharing players. Don't know how you do that when you're playing games on the weekend. One weekend on, one weekend off, like the other FIFOs. But
probably him. Yeah, FIFO. There's blokes that are in the mines one weekend, playing on the Sting for the Bears the next week.
Yeah, I think it was more kind of putting the boot up Super Rugby.
Yeah. He likes to do that.
It's like it's the
old horseman.
He's old. It's a dying sport. Come play something that's grown.
Yeah.
So watch this space. The other thing we said pre-show is surely going to be easier to lure talent to Perth than Port Moresby. So exciting times for fans of league and for those that are sort of looking ahead to the next few seasons. Start getting out your contracts and start writing down who's off contract in 2027 and might be a good target for the Perth Bears.
That's it, not to be confused with the Bears Perth.
Good point. If you haven't seen that, type in Bears Perth in that order. You might need to put the little asterisk around it to make it come up in that order. Not quite a rugby league club.
Not quite.
He's a men's club, but
different type of locker room.
Not safe for work.
All right. Oh, I was going to... There. Let's talk some Origin. I might run us through the Blues team. Shauno, you can run us through the Queensland team. No massive surprises here for the Blues. A few underdone outside backs. So Dylan Edwards retains as the incumbent. He's only played 7 games. Brian To'o only played 4. Stephen Crichton, we're talking about before, been one of the most destructive players in the game this year. Latrell, coming back from injury, has been very, very good. Gets himself in red-hot form, it seems, the few weeks leading into Origin. Zach Lomax. So, love that 1 through 5. I think on paper, incredible. Tommy Turbo, probably too much of an injury risk, I would say, at the moment. Seems to be... Hasn't had anything major, thank God, this year, but week in, week out, we've had little strains here, a soft tissue there.
Yeah, Manly haven't been doing real well in the last 6 weeks, so...
Maybe played into things just a little bit there. And where do you slot him as well?
He's got to be a centre, I think.
Who misses
Crichton's
out?
Just too good. And you love the Latrell factor.
And that's the thing, like we've been, the New South Wales Origin team has sort of been playing 3-4 fullbacks in their side as starters for the last few years. So it's good. They're kind of, like, unfortunate for Tommy, but good they've sort of moved away from that and sort of chosen people sort of playing in their traditional roles.
And Latrell's been playing centre this year, hasn't he? Since he's been
back, Jai Gray has played a fair bit of fullback. He has had the one on his back for a few. It's definitely, I think, his best position is centre. And real destructive when he puts on a sky blue jersey, that's for sure.
Yep.
Halves, so there was some speculation as to would it be Moses and Cleary or keep the old Penrith connection with Luai and Cleary. Mitch Moses gets the nod. He himself's only played 4 games. He had that stressy in his foot last year, and then I think that was what was keeping him.
Yeah, he missed the start of the year, then he did his bicep in the end of Origin. And
that's
then he
right.
didn't play until...
And then so bicep come good and then played a little bit at the start of the year, and I think it was the foot again. That's been keeping him out pretty much. Put New South Wales on his back in Game 3 last year. So him to pair up with Nathan Cleary. I don't think they've played together in an Origin, have they? Moses has always come in when Cleary has missed.
Correct.
So be interesting to see how they go. Mitch Barnett, Reece Robson, Payne Haas. Haas carrying a bit of a quad concern going into it. I imagine he's all sweet to go because we haven't heard anything else. You'd think 3 nights out we would know. Liam Martin, Angus Crichton, and Isaiah Yeo, I think, becomes a 22nd bloke to captain New South Wales. Pretty illustrious names on that list. I've got the top 3 in terms of games captained there in the notes. Fitler, Gallen, Badiris. So congratulations, Isaiah Yeo, Mr. Consistent. Bench is Connor Watson, who impressed as a utility last year, can play a number of positions off the bench. Spencer Leniu, Hudson Young, Max King from Canterbury makes his debut, and they reward a Bulldogs player for playing good footy. Campbell Graham, Stefano Utukamana, and Hamole Olakawatu also in there. Olakawatu released from the squad to play for Manly the other night. Campbell Graham on standby there, I think, for any
Credo was carrying
outside back
injury.
concerns.
Hadn't been training, but he had been playing. So
I think he's good to go as well, by all accounts.
yeah, I agree.
One sort of big snubbing was Terrell May. Okay, so a lot of people had him in their best 17. I think on form there is no way that you can leave him out. I've written down some numbers there to compare. I suppose Payne Haas is probably the best comparison. He's played 200 minutes more than Payne Haas, has made 90 more tackles than Payne Haas has. Haas has him for tackle busts. They're pretty similar for offloads, and they're pretty similar for run meters. But the fact that you're on par or better than the guy that's been out and out the best middle forward in rugby league for the last 3 years, on form would warrant selection, you would think. Anyone that plays NRL Fantasy or Supercoach, he's about 50% owned in those leagues. He's just perennial point scorer in that. Yes, Fantasy doesn't equate to performance in an Origin arena, but I don't think there's any arguing with his talent, his fitness, and toughness. I think he's actually perfect.
His on-field product is very
I think
good.
it's purpose built for Origin.
So
Problem is, I suppose, off the field. He was speaking, I think it was with Code Sports yesterday. He said, no matter how good I play, I guarantee I won't make it. I feel like I've got to do extra work because of my last name. Some people don't like my personality or my name. So 3 brothers coming out of Western Sydney. All of them make the NRL. That in itself is pretty incredible. Tyrone got stood down by Perth. That's his older brother a few years. I say Perth.
Penrith.
Perth on the mind. Stood down by Penrith a few years ago, resurrected his career over in Super League, but hasn't been in the NRL for a few years. And then younger brother Taylor was spoken a fair bit on the pod before, just kept getting himself in trouble off the field, and I think probably got more than a 3-strike policy there. Assaults and DV and court cases and all the things that Penrith just said, no, mate, we can't keep cleaning up after you. So, possibly that might be playing into things, although he's not his brothers. He's actually, relatively speaking, being able to keep his nose pretty clean when it comes to the off-field stuff. I suppose, the conversation around the modern player and streaming and
that whole the streaming and the social media side of it, and some of his comments on that he'd already obviously been told he wasn't going to get picked, but kind of so the offhand comments in that probably rubs the old boys the wrong way.
Definitely, I saw Freddie wasn't.
Yeah, and when Freddie said stuff, and I said to you, him and Laurie Daly are basically the same person. So if that's what Freddie thinks, then you can think that Daly probably thinks the same. So and that's the guy picking the squad. He's the coach. So
it's unfortunate because watching him, and as a New South Wales fan, I think fucking imagine you've just gotten through, Haas and Barnett, and then you got him to deal with coming off the bench. It would be a headache for the Queensland middle. But attitude is also important. You need guys that are going to play for the jersey and make it about the team and not about themselves. I do want to see him play for New South Wales at some stage with the form that he's been in. Watching he's got a YouTube channel. I was watching a little bit of the preseason workouts and stuff that he's been putting himself through, and you can't question his dedication as an athlete, and it's shown in dividends because he's having the fucking best season of his life by a long way.
Agree.
But yeah, interesting one there. And you look there, and credit to Max King making his debut. And Spencer Leniu is probably the other guy that comes into conversation there. They're the two comparable guys. Look, I don't think there's a world where either of those guys are having a better season than Terrell May. But it'll be interesting to see if he does get a blue jersey in the future. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how we line up 1 through 17. I think on paper, probably have a slight edge, although you can never, ever go up to Suncorp and think you're going to win. I'll pass it over to you, Shauno.
Yeah, well, the only other question I was going to ask you on New South Wales was, you happy with the halves pairing? Because that was probably the big thing.
Yeah.
And then what about Appy over Robinson?
Robson.
Sorry.
I think Reece Robson, it gives you a different type of hooker than what you get from Appy. Like defensively, he's just an absolute bull. Probably doesn't have the creativity that Coruscant does. Doesn't have the kicking game that Coruscant does. Appy also, been a big part in West Tigers not being cellar dwellers.
Yes.
So maybe a little bit stiff in a few places there. I'm happy with Robson to wear the 9. Then the conversation becomes, who's the better 14? I think Connor Watson's versatility. I think if Appy plays, he has to play 9, or he's not playing. I would imagine is what comes into it there.
I feel like the reason I ask is I feel bad for the West Tigers considering they've got no one in either squad. From my quick look there,
0,
and considering half the teams are made like New South Wales is made from the teams running 17 and 15 at the moment.
Penrith and Roosters,
Penrith, Roosters, and Eels. So
Eels, sorry, in the 15th.
Running 15. So you may be feeling a little hard done by if you're a Tigers fan.
Yeah, possibly. All they say, we don't lose our players for Origin.
Yeah, true.
That's it. For club footy, it's great. For the West Tigers, it's probably, puts a bit of a chip on the shoulder.
And maybe no recognition on their improvement.
That's right. Well. Yeah, heaps of them have been incredible. But yeah, good point that you make there with Coruscant. Maybe a little stiff to miss out. The Luai thing is interesting, isn't it? Because the knock on him used to always be, you put anyone next to Nathan Cleary and they'll look good, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but...
And then Luai plays without Cleary a lot through injury last year and still brains it. And then he goes to West Tigers and, they haven't been, top of the table kind of stuff, but he's still playing pretty good.
They're playing better than Penrith.
But that's the thing, the caveat, Penrith are now fallen off completely. So, was he the glue holding a lot of that place together? So
Penrith had have a lot of injuries as well.
Yes, they've had a lot of guys in and out. But you'd think from
still
where they finished last year, you wouldn't think they'd be running last.
I think it's sort of what you're sort of getting at here is why do we have 5 players from the Panthers, 5 players from the Roosters playing Origin when they're not going crash hot, and there's 2 guys from the Eels that are there as well. There's 3 guys from Titans as well playing Origin.
Yeah, I feel the exact same.
I think previous performance, none of those Panthers guys should be missing out. Fullback's hard because Teddy's been having a good year, but to remove your incumbent outside of injury or really, really, really poor performance, I don't think was going to happen.
Yeah, it's the whole question of talent versus team outcome. And you kind of think, well, if the talent...
recent form.
Yeah, recent form. I mean, you kind of think if you've got the talent and they've got form, then the team aspect would also be doing good. It kind of plays together. But
you do need a team that can
I just feel this year is a comparison is one of the first where I really think there's both squads have, a lot of guys outside the top 8. And some of those top 8 teams maybe haven't been rewarded as much for how their players are going. But, it is game 1. Come game 3, we look at very different squads for how their recent form's going.
I've got the numbers there. Sorry, Monks. There's six guys playing for New South Wales that are in a top 8 team. This is 1 through 17, doesn't include the other guys in the squad. And Queensland have 7.
Yeah, I'd give a caveat on Queensland with the 2 Broncos there because they just snuck into the top 8 considering they've got the bye and Manly lost yesterday. So they're kind of in that fringe, not really breaking into the top 8 in the big logjam. So I kind of feel like, there's a heavy push to the teams maybe in the bottom of the ladder.
It might just also be a nod to how tight and competitive the comp is.
Yeah, there's
now.
also the 2.
Yeah,
there definitely the 2.
Yeah, and if, you're Tino Faisasua Malawi and you're the best middle forward in Queensland, hands down.
Yes.
But
you just
don't
playing on the shooters team out of question.
you don't have the talent around you. I might put it a little bit nicer that you have in a Maroons jersey. Yeah, I think that plays into things. But that is a nice little segue.
Yeah, let's talk about the Queensland team. So one, we got Ponga. Well, I guess I'll run 13. Ponga, Coates is on the wing. The young fella, how do you say his last name? Toya. 10 games for him, playing for the Roosters. Hammer at 4. You got Val Holmes 5. Munster and DCE at 6 and 7, as you expect. Fodawaker at 8. 9 is Harry Grant. Big Tino at 10. Cotter at 11. Nanai at 12. Carrigan at 13 at lock. Deedon's your 14. Lindsay Collins off the bench, 15. Bo Firma, he's a debutant as well, is 16. And then, how do you say the
Trent Liero.
Liero from Melbourne is 17.
So, a few probably talking points there. Let's start with the debutants, Firma and Liero.
Yep.
Preferred over proven guys like Jaden Sewer, and we definitely know that there's some sort of beef / attitude / something with Billy Slater and David Fafita.
The defensive lapses, I think, is a big thing for Fafita. He gets caught out, and Horsburgh's probably as a team that's flying high at the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
In the Raiders coming second, and his resurgence this year, I think it's after last year having a down year, and he's kind of come together. But take today for example. Fiery got sin bin, turned the ball over. He's got that kind of in his game as well. So. I think he probably will play Origin at some point in this series, depending on injuries. But maybe it's like next year is the focus for him. But good to see him back. But they're the key kind of snubs out of that. Ponga's an interesting one I wanted to cover because Walsh misses out, but neither of them are really in form. And Walsh has been up and down, hurt and punching his mates. So. And, take Ponga, for example. We talked about Newcastle. They can barely score points. So, hopefully, with some other talent around him, it'll help.
Ponga's a classic for that. Yeah. Like Clubland, looks good at times and then sometimes has
It's been a while since he's played one for Queensland as well. So.
Yeah. So, he, I think, is the right call there. I think if Walsh had 11 healthy games under his belt, maybe it's a different story.
Different. But Cobbo's been playing a bit of one, and Cobbo might have fit into this team at some point, but then he had the injury scare, which was about with the wrists, but then he was cleared, so he was all right. So
they were going to play him with a broken wrist.
Well, no. Wow. Well, he didn't have the broken wrist. They scanned. He's fine.
Really?
I thought they've been cleared. He's been cleared. So he pulled out blame in that Broncos game. They're like, there might be something wrong with his wrist, so they didn't pick him, the way I understand it, or whether he wasn't in the frame at all. But you'd think he'd have some game. But then I thought it was NRL Physio said they had the scans and he was all good. So.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, because I listened to the NRL Physio pod last week and it was definitely reported out of that it was a broken wrist, but he might have gone for a CT or something later. Because sometimes they look at it on an X-ray and then they need to go for further investigations to get a better image, essentially, of the bony tissue. Yeah. But
I thought if he was cleared a couple of days later, they'd put him in the squad if they really wanted him. But
I feel like they would call him.
Or put him in the squad and have one of the the debutants say in the 20.
See what you can.
Has been cleared of any fractures.
Cleared of a fracture. He might have a ligament
maybe
issue. Anyways, he's not in there.
Brisbane haven't played recently, so we can't tell.
Murray Talangi as well, calf. Couldn't get selected. So that opens the door for Robert Toyer, essentially.
And I guess the big one missing out of that, Ben Hunt as well, with his injury. He was probably going to get an interesting story because there was a lot of talk about, the no form of the fullbacks and we want to put Tom Deedon in the side. Maybe we play Ben Hunt at 14, Tom Deedon starts at 6 and Munster's 1. So
that seems like a lot of
there had been a lot of reports kind of floating around that thinking was happening. So, I don't think they're overly happy with how the fullbacks had been performing up until that point. So, we will see as the series goes on whether that chat happens. But you got to be happy for me, like the Melbourne boys, they're running pretty hot at the moment. So, to get a bunch of them in the squad, you're always happy about. Probably not so happy about some of the others being a bit underdone. North Queensland and the Titans and the Broncos, like the Queensland teams, kind of struggling this season so far. So, it'd be an interesting competition. There's a lot of veterans, a lot of guys that have played Origin there. So nothing.
You look at that spine of Ponga, Munster, DCE, Grant, a pretty handy pack.
Yes.
I don't think that there's much there to be too concerned about.
No, not at all.
I wonder if there's ever been a 1 through 17 Queensland team that's featured one Brisbane Bronco, because with some injuries, that's the way it's going to happen. And the
It's been a while. It's definitely been a while.
Well, they were concerned with his face as well, that he might have needed. Because you see his lip after the Dragons game, but he's going to be all sweet.
And it needed some stitches. I think you'll be right. Actually, it was interesting with. I know DCE is getting a bit older and he's been picked in this, but his recent form, I think since he announced his contract, they had 2 good games, and I think they're 1-5 in the last 6. So his form's actually dropped off the face of the earth. But little Fogarty from the Raiders is probably the next halfback up for Queensland.
Scored a meat pie today.
Yeah, and it's been playing pretty well for them. Again, the recent form, what matters. It's going to be interesting because we start off in Queensland. Game 1's in Queensland. Queensland probably need to win their game if they're going to be any chance in the series. Game 2, they go to Perth, and Queensland's record in Perth is dreadful. They've lost both games they've played there in 2019, 2022.
That scoreline
at a combined 82 to 18
is the 2
getting
games in
hammered.
Perth.
So the Queensland squad maybe enjoys being out west a bit too much. It'll be tough, losing that game and then having to go to the Cider back in Sydney. So, game 1's going to be very important to see how the series goes.
Always massive, and it's always massive, I think, in the context of the modern setup with normally having a neutral venue.
Yeah, I love
there
that
as well.
Neutral. I think it makes it very interesting.
Did you end up finding anything for Selwyn Cobbo there?
He said cleared.
Yeah, it was just cleared.
Just as cleared?
Yeah, it was cleared of any injuries.
Fractures. Whether he had
because
anything.
NRL
He's listed as injured.
Yeah, it
but he's
says
clear
round
of the
13.
fracture.
Yeah, I've got no idea what's going on there.
Yeah, I don't know.
The one that we can definitively say was never good to go was Ben Hunt, because his hammy looked very ordinary
I think they said 8
a
weeks.
few weeks ago. Yeah, I think
he's going to miss all of the Origins. So.
I think it I can't remember if it was an avulsion, but it was a complete rupture. So yeah, poor Benny Hunt, old man injury, that one. For us as well, watched plenty of him over the last few years. Unlucky, but yeah, as well, if he was fit, how does that team line up as well? Does Tom Dearden miss out? Anyways.
Yeah, well, that's what I was talking about. The fullbacks hadn't been doing too good. So you put Munster back at 1. He's played not a huge amount, but he's played enough fullbacks. So you get your best 17 out there, or your best 13 on the park.
Wednesday night, obviously the panel's going to go Queensland, New South Wales. Get us in the comments what you reckon and what you're hoping to see out of this State of Origin series. And obviously, go the Blues.
Go the Blues.
Should we talk some AFL?
Head over to AFL.
That was quiet.
That was very quiet. That's okay. Round 11, Sir Doug Nicholls round. Started off Thursday night with Geelong beating the Western Bulldogs 127 to 113. Jez Cameron booted 6 after kicking 7 last week. He leads Coleman. 13 in 2 weeks will help there. But I suppose the big talking point out of that game was Baz Lenker, Bailey Smith, against his former club. Gets the Bickies with the win, and probably gets the best on ground votes as well, with 33 disposals, 25 of which were kicks, and he's second in the Brownlow voting at $5. I think Steen was saying that previously the most votes he'd ever got for Brownlow in a season was 10, and I reckon he's got that probably in the last month of footy. Also, nice.
Shocker, go Geelong, play well.
He also likes to stick the boot into his old club a little bit here
it's not
and
as
there.
bad being out in Ballarat.
Also,
having been to Ballarat multiple times, it's fucking gold. That's coming from a Canberrian.
Coming from a bloke who's here. That is interesting. So interesting to see how Baz Lenker fares later on in the season. Nick Dacos, we'll get to it in just a second, also looking very, very good when it comes to Brownlow talk. Bombers had a win, Marks. Just going to play Richmond every week.
That's it.
Angus Clark on debut, kicked 3 goals, 18-year-old, pretty impressive. Nick Martin getting the best on with 35 disposals, 2 goals. They've won 3 in a row against Richmond. Apparently that hadn't happened before that since 2002.
Jeez.
So it speaks volumes to the Richmond dynasty, that's for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
Carlton yesterday lost 82 to 110 at home to GWS. It was Toby Green's 250th.
Had a game, old Toby.
Yeah, big games. Likes to show up, that's for sure, for a milestone or big occasions. Had to be against my bloody team. That's all right. 28 disposals, 9 marks, 3 goals.
I think 3 behinds as well.
Yeah, he could have had a real big old bag. And GWS get the win down there in Victoria. Carlton have a bye, much needed bye, but then lead into Bombers, Eagles, Roos.
Kiss on the dick, as Michael said.
Need to win all 3 of those because the run home's hard for them. I was looking at July and August, and there's a lot of tough games. So,
talking about lines, we'll have to start thinking about who we put them through.
Exactly right. Too early for Carlton. Definitely a few other teams that can have a line through them. Just struggling with a few things, second halves, and Carlton. That's nothing normal. Nothing out of the normal for them.
New, yeah.
But poor delivery into forward 50 as well, and it just seems like they're so reliant on the top end guys as well. And if Curnow and Mackay and Cripps, can't dominate. Doc has been good coming back. Weeder's probably struggled a little bit at the back. It's tough ask. But yeah, it's not panic stations just yet for the Blues, and hopefully a bye and a few easier matchups. It's panic stations if they lose any of those games, I reckon.
Oh, I hope they lose at least one.
Yeah, the Kangaroos. Hawthorn lost to Brisbane yesterday. I think that scored
60.
Yeah, the score's wrong there in the notes. My apologies. Did you catch much of that?
I did not, unfortunately.
I think Calamarchi was pretty good. He booted 4 usual suspects.
I know Jared was back. That was probably the main thing after his bump from McDonald, I think it was.
Yeah, I think he was pretty good in that one. Zorko and Neil, good as per usual. Lions lost last week to Melbourne, and Melbourne won again today as well. So maybe
Right the ship.
getting back into things. Collingwood had to pull it out all in the second half. They had a real slow start against North Melbourne, but ended up winning by 45 points. Jamie Elliott, he's playing some pretty good footy. He's got 18 goals since Anzac Day, which is a month ago today, 28 on the season, and he booted 5. And we were talking about him before, Whispery Nick Dacos, he's into $4.50 for the Brownlow. 38 disposals, does it week in, week out. I think it's him and Baslenka are fair way ahead of anyone else. Freo got the win last night. Pretty wet conditions there at Optus. Won by 49. Porter in a bit of strife. 2 in a row for Freo there, I think coming 9th. Luke Jackson, pretty good in that one. 4 goals for Murphy Reid. And then we need the games from today. Thank you for that. Adelaide
smashed West Coast.
66-point winners over West Coast. This game is interesting. Melbourne not only winning over Sydney, but doing it comfortably. Old Narm Football Club, 53-point winners over the Swans. That's 2 in a row for them, and starting to look a bit more like the Melbourne of old. And then the game that's just finished, St Kilda losing at home to the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast Suns will be right up there. Can you? Yeah.
Yep.
You got the ladder up there, Monks. Yeah, can you just scroll that up for us?
Yeah, Suns and Lions, 2 Queensland teams. Right?
Crazy.
Top.
So Collingwood still first, 36 points, but then, those 2 Queensland teams, aforementioned, Lions 34, Suns 32. The Crom in the top 4. I think that's the first time on the season they've snuck into the top 4, 28 points, ahead on percentage from Cats and Hawks. Hawks are on a little bit of a slide after starting red hot. Then mid-table, pretty tight with Western Bulldogs, GWS, Freo, Essendon, all on 24. That's 7 through 10. And then, Melbourne really starting to climb, aren't they? Up into 11th. 20 points there alone in 11th. And then another log jam of Carlton, Sydney, St Kilda, Port Adelaide. Wow, right on the slide down there, the 15th, old Yataputi. So 16 points for all of them. And then talking about putting the lines through clubs, I think we could have done this probably in week 4, but Richmond, North Melbourne, West Coast, 12, 10, 4. Shout out to West Coast. They got off the nudie last week with a win against St Kilda. Jack McRae actually punctured his lung in that game. I think slow to return back to Melbourne. And what else happened last week? Oh, Bailey Dale he had the 49 disposal game for the Dogs against Bombers. Was one short of joining the 50 club. There's only 8 players that have ever got 50 in a game. So the Bulldogs record for Bailey Dale in that one, 49 disposals, 37 of which were kicks. And the AFL record is 54 from Tom Mitchell in 2018. Other things last week, you already spoke about Jez Cameron. He booted 7. A bunch of hammies in the Port Geelong game. Horn Francis and Dangerfield, the 2 big names out of those hamstrings. Carlton pretty ordinary at the SCG, nothing new there. Gold Coast, actually Darwin Fortress for them. They beat Hawthorn a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, just notes there, given that we didn't pod last week.
I think of that ladder at the moment, GWS probably reminding me of being heavily favoured to win the comp at the start of the year.
Everyone had them first, didn't they?
Yeah, sitting at 8 at the moment, got a bit of work to do.
Obviously a good team.
Blues
fans saw that yesterday. When you get Jesse Hogan and Toby Green combining at the front, probably just need to see that touch more progression out of Riccardi and Cadman for them to be like, premiership winners. But you look at those 2 blokes and their young talls are coming along and they're only going to get better. So you'd think in years to come they'll be looking fine. Some Adelaide and probably Gold Coast as well.
Yeah, I was going to say Hardwick in his second year will be pretty happy they're sitting 3rd at the moment.
Yeah, they've only lost 2 games. And so last year
scoring well.
They ended up being undefeated at the Gold Coast last year. It was that
at the Gold Coast or at Darwin, because I think they lost at least one. They had that like 8. No, yeah, they had like an 8-game run, and I think they lost it right at the end.
Yeah. Anyways, I remember. Away, they were struggling.
Dreadful, yes.
So 8 and 2, they've obviously fixed that up a fair bit. I think maybe some question marks around the Suns and Crom. Do they deserve to be up there at 8 and 2 and 7 and 4? But yeah, the way that they've been playing of late, I don't think you can ever rule out Geelong. It doesn't matter where they are on the ladder. They're 5th. Dogs, I think when
did you talk about Maynard?
Talk about
Maynard from Collingwood. I
No.
thought I saw he got injured.
Look that up for us, would you? Who did they play? That was North last night. Yeah, see if you can find a Maynard thing.
I thought there was a...
I did see I was watching highlights on the way over here because I didn't see any of these games last night. Alex Pearce from Freo getting 3 weeks for, I suppose it's dangerous contact is probably what it would have been called. Suffers injury, reinforcements, blah, blah, blah. Can you... it just says foot injury. Yeah,
I thought of that sort of foot injury as well.
Probably won't find out until like half an hour before next week. So.
Just says plantar fascia problem flared. Okay, that's interesting. So they've said flare rather than strain or rupture or anything like that. But pretty painful, the old plantar fascia.
Oh, especially in the old AFL players and the amount of meters they're going to make.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see when those scans come back. You can rupture your plantar fascia. It's pretty rare. You can also just put a little tear in it and end up missing, 6 weeks or something. So watch that space for Braden Maynard. They're pretty banged up, like, considering they're coming first with scroll back up because Darcy Moore, but who else? Lockie Schultz, Jordan De Goey, all still unavailable. So when they get troops back, geez, they're going to be hard to beat.
The Dacos carrying them. Dacoses carrying them.
Yeah, Josh has been pretty handy.
Yes.
That concludes the double round of Doug Nichols round. Some pretty cool Indigenous kits getting around and some good crowds as per usual there in the AFL. Yep. All right, let's run into some playoff basketball. Let's leave that. Yeah. So that's normally our Steph Curry grab.
Yeah.
And that's
Curry goes bang.
That must have been that's like the original one. I think that's on there.
Did you flip it?
It is. No.
Press it again.
Hang on. How does that?
No, are you sure you're on the right one? They all sound like the original ones. No?
But let's see the ones at the top there have still saved. We might need to play around with some technical things there.
You have the other one?
Up here.
Curry
There we
sets
go.
fire.
That's probably why that other one was quiet.
Now you know what you can click over there, and if I say a joke that doesn't hit, you can hit us with a womp, 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 womp.
That's it.
Let's just briefly run through the first round. The East was pretty boring, to be honest, in the first round. Cleveland absolutely run through Miami. They're saying it was the most one-sided series in NBA history, statistically. So Cavs, their points difference was 122 across 4 games, so average of 30 point winning margins. They actually had a 55-point win in Game 4, which is unprecedented in basketball. Only for Cleveland to get bumped in the next round, but Miami didn't put up any resistance. Not much else from Milwaukee. Indiana running through them 4-1. The big story out of this one was Dame Lillard rupturing his left Achilles in Game 4. He'd actually missed some time with a DVT in the right leg, so you can't say same limb, any correlation with that. You could possibly question, coming back and was he game fit and all of that. He's 34. He turns 35 in a month and a bit. Bouncing back from an Achilles is hard for any professional athlete. I think it's particularly hard in basketball.
Yep.
And like Klay Thompson comes to mind.
Yep.
I think he had an ACL and an Achilles. But yeah, hoping to see the best of Dame Lillard in the 26 season.
Yeah. It might be tough for Milwaukee because a lot of rumours is Giannis is going to be moved. Get what he can for him while he can.
You've seen some of the trade.
So
Some of the trade rumours. So obviously, teams are going to have to throw the kitchen sink. See if you can find any there amongst. I saw an offer from the Spurs, which had 3 first rounders for Giannis, plus a few players to sweeten the deal. But plenty of rumours that he'll be moving in the summertime. New York got through Detroit 4-2. It was the Pistons' first time in the playoffs since 2018-2019, and it was actually the first time they won a playoff game since 07-08. So 17 years since they'd won a playoff game. They only won 2 of them, and Jalen Brunson, Cat, and the co get through the Pistons 4-2 in that one, and then Boston pretty one-sided as well with their win over the Magic 4-1. It was more interesting in the West.
Yep.
So you would have followed the Nugs series pretty closely there, I'd imagine. So Denver, 4 games to 3 over the Clippers. And this one, there was no more than 2 in a row for one team. So it went Denver, Clippers, Denver, Clippers, Denver. So really nice to see a few Game 7s. We also saw a Game 7 in the Rockets and Warriors. The Rockets with that 2 seed. Just Steph and co too good, and we saw the Buddy Hield games and thinking, geez, this bloke's been on a few teams before, but we haven't seen him put up 33 in playoff ball before. So Buddy Hield on fire in that one. OKC way too good for Memphis, 4-zip, including a 50-point drubbing in Game 1, and the Wolves actually getting through the Lakers. Lakers pretty reliant on Luka, and Rudy Gobert had a few quiet ones, but then had a couple of monster games as well. Yeah. It's actually the first time ever that the T-Wolves have won a playoff series against the Lakers. So obviously all that old history around the old Minneapolis Lakers being relocated to Los Angeles in the late 60s or whenever that happened. So it's the first time that Minnesota's beaten the team the franchise that they used to have. So the first time the Wolves have beaten the Lakers. Interesting bit of history there.
Yep.
Eastern Conference semi-finals, Cavs get knocked out by the Pacers 4-1. Pretty one-sided series in the end. And we'll get to Indiana in just a second. Cleveland all year, we're talking about the East going to be, Cavs, Celtics. Start the Eastern Conference finals right now. Neither of them make it. So maybe we need to shut up in February, March and just let the league do what it does. Pretty rare for both the 1 and 2 seeds to both get bumped.
Yes.
So credit to the Pacers. Did it pretty easy in that one. And then the Knicks, probably one of the biggest talking points at a sleeping giant has resurfaced. Obviously the biggest city or metropolitan area in America, a lot of Knicks mania going on at the moment. They beat their arch nemesis 4-2. The big talking point in this one, another Achilles, Jason Tatum. You hate to see it. One of the best players in the league at the moment. I suppose conversely to Dame is that he's a lot younger, but the way that he plays as well in the power forward position as opposed to a guard, It's going to be interesting for him and his rehab. Hoping to see the best of Jason Tatum again.
Definitely.
Western Conference semis, Minnesota getting through the Warriors 4-1. This series turned on its head, didn't it? When Steph Curry reaches for his hamstring in game one. Pretty incredible that the Warriors win that game without him. Yeah. But then in games that Steph did not start, they went 0-4.
Yes, yeah, they struggled without him, definitely.
What were your thoughts, Sean, when he went down? Did you think that was the series then and there, or did you have some hope?
Well, after Buddy had played in the previous series, it was just like, maybe him and Jimmy Buckets can pull something out.
Jimmy Buckets,
but I think they gave Ant the chance to take over, and he did. So
it's the Jimmy Buckets factor. I was like, here comes playoff Jimmy. I've seen this before. Playoff Jimmy obviously only works in a Heat jersey. He
left it back in Miami.
That's right. Look, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't able to put it.
Yeah, this team is still Curry's team, though.
Yeah.
That's where their structures come through. So, yeah. It's a tough, big loss.
Watching their offense without Steph and the way that he's changed, not just his team, but the NBA and the 3-point shooting and oh my God, their offense was painful in that series. Just turning it over a lot, which we see from a lot of teams, but then a game that's obviously built around setting up 3-point shooting for the best 3-point shooter of all time who's not playing. And then you've got the boys putting them up, and Hield was landing a few and Pods was getting a few here and there, but for the most part, it was very ordinary. And their whole game plan's built around perimeter shooting, and then you lose Steph, and it was a nightmare to watch. A good series to watch was the Thunder. And again, the Nugs going to 7. You wonder if the attrition maybe plays into things here with Denver a little bit.
Maybe a little bit there. Joke having to play and coach. It's a bit of that too.
So weird sacking your coach when they're going well before playoffs. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me.
The reports, I think, is the interim coaches, they're going to sign him on long term. So I don't know what that means for Joker's future, because he seems to be been very vocal post the firing of what's his name? Carl Malone? Was his last name?
No, it's not Carl Malone. Mike Malone.
Mike Malone. There you go.
Yeah. Carl Malone.
He was a former player, so I was just like, no, they can't be right.
NBA legend.
Yes.
Interesting. There's a lot of fucking Aussie resi about this, isn't it? Captain coach. Joker looks like the kind of captain coach that'd be in Resi's footy. He's punching some Eastern European darts at halftime.
Yeah, I still think we talked about that team still needs someone else to help Joker. They were much better once Murray came back for the playoff series, and that's probably why they went as far as they did. But they still lack something to support Joker, I think, going forward.
Interesting. I think Jamal Murray is excellent, and Aaron Gordon had a pretty good series as well. Yeah. I think they were maybe unlucky to end up on the Thunder side of the draw.
Well, I kind of think the NBA Finals happened already, and OKC's probably going to win their series. Say the Wolves will come back, but I think they're going to win their series, and then I think they'll get through the Pacers pretty easily. So.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Lots of people say that,
they're toughest matchup,
the Western Conference Finals is the NBA Finals. last year with the Celtics winning, obviously a exception. But through many years of Warriors dominance, and it's probably Spurs and Lakers are always there or thereabouts before that. Yep. It is interesting, but look, maybe we can't get ahead of ourselves, and we've got to give some credit to the teams coming out of the East, which is a nice little segue into the Eastern Conference Finals. Game 1, I struggle to recall a game this crazy in recent memory. Pacers win 138-135 in OT. 78 points combined from Brunson and Cat, not enough. The Pacers trailed by 14 points with 2:40 on the clock. Yep. And they trailed by 9 in the final minute. Shauna, you sent the little social media grab. Teams in that position in playoffs, so trailing 9 in the final minute, were 0 and 1,414.
Yeah, and I saw from that 14 point as well, teams that were behind at 14 points in the last quarter, like 970 to 0 as well. So, it hadn't been done before that a team's come back from being behind so much. So they were the first essentially to do it, which is crazy. And which is where they finished. Hal finished with the choking. The
Reggie Miller.
Reggie Miller pointed him out as well. So, it was pretty impressive, pretty wild end of the game.
The fact that he had his toe on the line as well, so that choking was. He thought he sunk for
sunk
the
it,
three, which was a lucky
overtime.
three at best as well. Hits the rim,
Goes
bounces
straight up,
halfway up to the fucking jumbotron, and then goes in.
Well, it was almost in the middle of the key, jumps back out, trying to get the three, and then
He had the big toe on the line.
Crazy.
So went to
finish.
overtime.
Then they win in overtime. There was 7 lead changes in OT as well, so it was back to back. And you could hear a pin drop in the garden at the end of that one. What about Haley afterwards? He said, I'm not trying to be aura farming out there, and I had to look this up, and I think it maybe but a few boomers here. A few Gen Y here, boys here, I think, millennial boys that aren't quite the same as the Zoomer generation in terms of our vernacular, that's for sure.
Yep.
I've heard of aura before. You know, aura is cool, suave.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely
Have an aura, yes.
I haven't heard of aura farming.
You got to steal someone's aura, bro.
Yeah, but you know, you got to farm it.
Yeah, it's your farm.
You got to go throw out what are they using for modern farming these days?
Tractor.
I was going to say a hoe, but
I don't think there's many farmers getting around with hoes.
throwing out some hoes to try and get aura. I was like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. So I looked it up. So aura farming is like trying to look cool and build aura. He's trying to farm for said aura. Caused a bit of discussion in a few group chats, that's for sure.
is it kind of like being a tryhard?
Are we officially?
Well, yeah, I
boys?
think
Is that what
farm.
you're saying?
Yeah,
Translate for me, yeah.
yeah, I would say a try hard. But now that I say try hard, aura farming sounds way cooler.
Yeah.
Has an aura about it.
He does. He does have high aura. There's definitely some players in the NBA that have low aura. Like getting back to Joker's not an aura guy.
No.
He's like
I don't know what we're talking about right now.
we're talking about aura.
But he has an aura because he's a
good at
3-time
basketball.
MVP. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's got aura. But like, I don't think he's like I don't know. He doesn't strike me as an aura guy.
Well, it
Alex
sounds more
Caruso-
like you're saying he doesn't have a personality. He's
No,
just a
it's not
quiet
personality.
guy that sits in the corner.
No, I'm just saying like it doesn't seem like
You know how you say
Yeah.
a word too many times, it just loses all meaning.
oh man, I think I've gone back.
Yeah, old man shouts at cloud. That's you, bro.
Me as an unathletic white guy from Australia, I'm kind of like, oh, he's fucking the best player in the world. That should be aura in itself. And I was about to say Alex Caruso, no aura, like bald with a headband. But then he's the white mamba. I don't know, man. If there's anyone that's listening to this podcast that's under the age of 21, let us know what is aura, what constitutes it, and then how does one farm for aura? And then run us through your thoughts on the Eastern Conference Finals. Aura aside, the Pacers 114 to 109 winners wasn't quite as crazy as game one, but still an excellent game. I think there was 17 lead changes, something like that. Maybe got to 20. I don't know. It was a lot of lead changes in that one. Spicy P, 39 points. Pascal Siakam. He's got a cool story, man. He grew up in Cameroon, youngest of 4 brothers. His dad had him enrolled to be a priest. He was at the seminary. He was like, nah, I'm going to try basketball. Apparently, he was the least interested in basketball out of all of his brothers. And then got scouted by Luke Amate. I think I said that incorrectly, but anyways, Cameroonian legend. And then goes to New Mexico State, not known for producing NBA players. Goes late in the first round, and now he's a 3-time All-Star, won with the Raptors, big part of the Raptors' success, and clearly a big part of this Pacers team, which no one probably had going to the NBA Finals, and they lead the Eastern Conference Finals 2-0, going back to Indiana.
Yep. Play tomorrow.
Yeah, this series is crazy. Like it's so close. It's a weird one though, because like they're playing so close, it could going through fourth quarter, it could go either way, but you just kind of do lean towards the Pacers a little bit, taking it.
Well, how much emotional toll does it take losing 2 games like that?
At home.
At home, in the Garden, all the hype around New York. We spoke about the sleeping giant before. They haven't won it since 1973. The fact that they're in the Eastern Conference Finals is massive in itself, because that hasn't happened for a time, but there'd be a lot of passionate Knicks fans out there, and they probably want it really bad, but they walk around really, having not played particularly bad. They go to go to the field house in Indianapolis, 2-zip down. Hard to come back from.
Yeah.
Let's jump over in the West, where the Thunder won their first 2 home games. SGA 31 and 38 in that. I sent you boys a thing about SGA having 60 20-point games in a row,
Right, yep.
at least 20. Of course, as soon as I send that, he had a 14-point game today, but he was in pretty illustrious company. There was no LeBron James in that. There was no Shaq, I don't think. There's a few incredible players. I might actually get that list up. I've got it on the phone somewhere. But yeah, and talking of aura, he I think he's high aura. Get at me. I'm not really sure. But
How do I get high aura?
how does one? You have to farm.
That's right. That's right. I gotta go out farming.
All right. The players that have had 60 straight 20-plus point games, SGA is one of them. KD, we've got his jersey up there. We've got Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robertson, Wilt Chamberlain. That's like the list of best basketball players of all time, less LeBron. Yeah, who's Shaq? A larger one's not on that list. Like, there's only a few incredible guys.
Yep.
And obviously that's night in, night out performance.
Yeah.
Doesn't do it in Minneapolis. That game blew out. It was 42 points. Granted, he probably didn't play a whole lot in the fourth quarter. No. And Sean, you were talking about the free throw farming. He goes to the line a lot. Does he get the rub of the refs, or is he just really good in the paint and forces fouls?
There's probably a bit of that. There's, I think he probably gets both though. That's the thing. Like, he's good enough to force fouls, but he's also gets enough free fouls as well to probably boost his total. I checked game 2. He got 15 free throws in that, and he only got 4 in game 3. The big reason I brought it up was because I think it was Randall pushed him over and said, and in post in the conference afterwards said, I wanted to foul him to actually foul him to get a foul called on me versus the phantom fouls that have been talking about how he's been getting. So I wonder.
I believe they call that a hard foul.
Yes, a hard foul. So because there had been a lot of talk about some of the easy fouls he had been getting compared to some of the other players, and whether some of that rhetoric has started to leak into the bias into the referees potentially. And he maybe was getting a few less calls, and that does change the dynamic and the pace of how the game's played. And Ant kind of took this game over early, and got some easy big buckets, a big dunk to start with, and they kind of stole all the momentum and ran away with it.
Yeah, this game was over in the second quarter,
half time.
Yeah, I think I texted you boys. I was like, this could be over by half time. It was well and truly over by half time. Which shows that this Thunder team is, coherent as they are defensively and as scary as they are offensively, can definitely show a few chinks in the armor.
So,
I think you have to start perfectly, and like you said, you can't let SGA get to the line 15 times in a game.
It'll be interesting to see how game 4 and 5 play out, knowing, with that where there's, kind of return to form, or if there's, maybe a bit more playoff basketball played out there and a few more things to let go. So, it'll be interesting to see if more the defensive side of it takes over. But interesting to watch the next 2 games.
For sure. We've got game 3 in the East tomorrow morning, and then it'll pretty much just be alternating days until someone gets knocked out. So next time we pod, we'll be talking finals, I imagine. Yeah. Back to SGA. He did win the MVP this week, just gone. Had 71 of 100 first-place votes. The only other player to get first-place votes was Nikola Jokic coming second. Giannis placed third with 0 first-place votes, but gets it on some... I think they vote first through 5, 100 of them. So then there's a point system allocated. But it was really a 2-horse race, and SGA wins that 2-horse race pretty comfortably. Thoughts? Do you think he was legitimately the best player in the NBA this year, or do you think there's a bit of voters fatigue that plays into it? Sean, you are a Nugs Jokic guy.
Yep.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think I pretty said it that they're probably close to one of the greatest, if not greatest, seasons by a centre ever happened this year, and I guess he's already won it multiple times. That he was significantly better than any other time he'd won the MVP. So I can see the reason why SGA won it. Best player on the best team, but I thought the MVP was an individual award. So
Interesting. So why do you think it's voting fatigue?
I think a part of that plays into it. And Joker could have probably won it over Embiid as well. So
A few years ago,
do you want him to win it 5-6 times in a row, or
maybe it's his low aura. That's
the thing.
that's what it came
He doesn't
down
have
to.
enough aura. So I think that series kind of the way it played out as well in the voting, depending when you think they actually take the voting and when the winner of that maybe determined who was actually going to be the MVP. But yeah,
I've got his numbers here for 24-25. His minutes was the highest that it's ever been at 36.7. His field goal percentage was just lower than it has been, but still shot 57% from the field. His 3-point was the best that it's ever been, a tick under 42%, and that was 7% up from what it was last year in an MVP year. His assists per game was 10.2. That's a full assist better than it was last year. The only thing that's really been comparable were his boards, which were 12.7 this year compared to 12.4 last year. Also, points per game, probably the metric that's most important. He was 3.2 points per game higher than he was in his MVP winning season last year. So if we're comparing MVP in last season to MVP this season, Joker versus Joker, he should have got an MVP this season. It's kind of like Lamar in the NFL, isn't it? Where statistically he's had a better season than he did when he won the MVP, but the NFL voters voted to say that Josh Allen had the better year this year, and the NBA voters voted to say that SGA had the better year this year.
yeah.
Does the number of games come into play with that? Because 2020... 22, 23, 24, 25 has been lower.
Yeah, 9. Yeah, and the threshold is 65. Remember, so he only played 5 games over the threshold. So maybe that plays into it. I think what Sean said before about SGA being the best player on the hands down best team in the West.
Yeah.
I think that is probably the deciding factor.
Yeah, that and leading points.
I mean, statistically across the league, he was
How many games? I think he played a fuckload of games as well. I don't think he missed too many. SGA, that is. I'm trying to get 76. So he played 6 more. Still missed 6 on the season. The scoring leader by a long shot with 32.7 points per game, which led the NBA. Shea as well, if you want to do, Joker comparing to himself. Last year, all his numbers were pretty much comparable to last year, except for points per game, where he went up 2.6 this year. But assists, no real significant change there. Shooting percentages, no real significant change. Shot the 3-ball 2% better. But yeah, comparing to his season last year, wasn't overly improved from a numbers perspective. And again, it's not all about numbers. Thunder best team in the West by a long way. He's the best player on the best team.
Yeah.
At us in the comments. Do you think SGA deserved his first NBA MVP, or do you reckon it should have been the Joker winning his 4th? Let us know. That'll round out our NBA chat for this ep. And yeah, like we said, next pod we will probably be in the midst of the NBA finals. Hit that button. Let's see what we get here.
All right. We should be right now.
Big Ange Postecoglou, second seasons is when he gets his finest work done. Tottenham beats Man United to win the Europa League 1-0. It couldn't have been a more ugly performance from Spurs. They had 26% of the ball. They had 3 shots, 1 on target, which was the goal, and it was a sloppy old goal from Brennan Johnson in the 41st minute. Big shout out to Mickey van der Ven, who had a real athletic save in the 68th, getting his foot up near the crossbar on the line to clear his line. And Spurs end up with that elusive trophy, their first European trophy in the 21st century, and their first trophy at all, I think, in 17 years. I think it was. Thoughts?
Happy to see Ange pull it off. Because, by all accounts, he's days are numbered. I think the Ajax I like saying it that way, coach is most likely going to come in and replace him. There's a lot of talk about they're looking at other options already. So, I think it's probably going to be tough. I think Ange kind of said it as well. Like, it was great to get a trophy. Prem form had been terrible. So, but then, his recent comments is like, hey, your season 3, if you will, is always better than season 2. So
he also said that
they normally kill off the main character.
Kill off the main character.
Yeah.
Elite chat from Big Ange.
So I think the players like playing for him. I think they get around him. But yeah, whether they want just a bigger name or someone more well known in the space to come in and take over from Ange, unfortunately.
That's a good point. That the players seem to get around him, and again, no one knows what's happening inside the locker room at Tottenham Hotspur, but that the word on the street is that he's well liked by the playing group. We see that the opposite happen a lot, where a coach loses his job because he's lost the group, he's lost the playing group, he's lost the locker room. That doesn't seem to be the case here. I do wonder if in chats, with Son and the players, does Spurs management take that into consideration, or do they just have a guy in mind lined up and they'll let him, celebrate and then get through the week 38 next week and then say. Thanks
for your service.
Yeah.
Good and good luck.
Good luck. I don't recall saying good luck.
It's a wild connection there as well. So was that like 10 years ago? It sort of came up on social media. It's 10 years ago. Australia versus Korea in the Asian Cup final with Son being in that team and Ange being the coach of Australia. Ultimately, Australia won that one, and there's videos that surfaced of Ange going up to Son and comforting him, supporting him, consoling him after the game. So it's just cool to see that sort of come full circle, and they both win their first sort of cup together at Tottenham. So yeah.
Son deserves one. Harry Kane got one. With,
yeah, that's right.
With Bayern winning Bundesliga, that's all wrapped up. So we were having a bit of a laugh about that last season. In that, he goes trophy hunting and Leverkusen win the Bundesliga for the first time in a decade. It's interesting there as well to think that the Socceroos were kings of Asia just 10 years ago, and to win an Asian Cup right now, geez, a lot would have to go right. So, maybe that's part of the talent that we had 10 years ago playing for the Socceroos. Maybe that's part of Ange Postecoglou being at the helm.
Yeah.
The losers, United, are they going to blow up their team? By all reports, yes. Just how many how many axes get swung, or how many people want to leave on their own accord?
Where are they going to finish, by the way? Are they going to finish
14?
They're currently sitting 16.
16, yeah, that's what I thought. There's 16.
So there's a game next week against Villa.
With Spurs in 17.
Yeah. So Spurs can overtake United, but they've got a game against Brighton next week, and you'd think coming off a hangover from the Europa League win, I don't know. But it is at home. United play Aston Villa next week. So the lowest either of those teams can go is 17th. The highest with 3 points and other things happening would be 14th.
Yeah.
So very,
Nothing
very...
to write home with that.
No, for
either club. So.
For either, but particularly for United, which is still statistically, financially one of the biggest clubs in the world, and 20 years ago was the biggest club in world football.
Yeah, to have the season that they've had this year, you'd expect a bit of drama, I guess, in the off season.
Yeah, well, lots are going to go. I think Garnacho has probably said that he's unhappy, so it'd be interesting to see. Allegedly, Captain Bruno Fernandes has had bulk Saudi money thrown at him. He's getting a little bit older as well, so it'd be interesting to see if he takes that or takes money from another big European club. I'd love to see him stay at United. We know that Christian Eriksen and Lindelof won't be there. Their contracts aren't being renewed, and Marcus Rashford, who is at Aston Villa on loan, said publicly that he doesn't want to return under Amorim. It's going to be also interesting in the off-season if Amorim keeps his job as well. This guy that pretty much was just winning at will in Portugal comes over and finds that the EPL is a little bit different to Portuguese domestic football, at least. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's also interesting how many players have left United to go have a bunch of success and pretty immediate success as well. We're seeing Anthony, good name. He's doing well in La Liga after he couldn't buy a goal in the EPL. And Napoli have just won Serie A for the second time in 3 years. And Scott McTominay has been a big part of that and been one of the best players in Italian football this year. And, you know, was probably consistent for United, but you wouldn't have had him as being one of the better players in the league. So, yeah, interesting that the guys are leaving and finding some pretty immediate success. There's a few ex-United players that will line up for Inter next week in the Champions League final as well. Yeah, United... I can't put my finger on what it is over the last few seasons because it's been getting worse and worse and worse, and it doesn't seem to be the talent of these players because they seem to have success wherever they go.
It's kind of, well, actually no. I was going to say it's kind of reminiscent of like a PSG in the last few years where they've had like all these stars come in and they just couldn't get it really going. Like obviously they had success through Champions League and the like, but
well, it's interesting that PSG now in the post. You know, Messi era, and the post, you know, they're in the Champions League final.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't always come down to
having all the superstars or having the.
Well, if you can't get the superstars, how do you make up for the difference?
Boys, if you got the answers for United, that's the $1 billion question at the moment, I think. Europa League would have been, you know, a little consolation, I think, on a very ordinary season again from a juggernaut of English football, and I think they'll look very different 1 through 11 next year. Nana cops a lot of slack as well. He has a lot of errors in him as well. It's the position that you can't afford to have errors. Be interesting to see if he's keeping for United next year. I think they'll go full rebuild.
Yep, agree.
FA Cup, Crystal Palace wins their first major trophy, I think ever. It's definitely in 100 years. So upsetting Man City with a goal from Iberechi Eza. He had the deciding goal in this one, but it was really their keeper, Dean Henderson, who won in that game. Saved a pen, which is pretty rare, and also from the field of play, pretty good. They nearly went 2-0 up. They just had one come back for offside. So well done to Palace. We've seen a few teams winning trophies this year that haven't won them for a long time. Palace definitely one of them. We already mentioned Napoli and Arsenal get a trophy this year, but in the Women's Super League, and 3 Matildas in that with Steph Catley, Caitlin Ford, Kira Cooney Cross, all getting winners' medals with Arsenal. So big week for the Aussies in round ball football, that's for sure. Yes. Anything to add?
Do we ever talk about Liverpool?
Oh, yeah, Liverpool won. Yeah. They won 6 months ago, bro.
So since our last
officially, I can't remember since our last pod.
Well, it was like 3 weeks ago that they have officially won it. But yeah, we haven't spoken about them being officially league champions. Obviously, a lot of the official celebrations will happen next week after match day 38. But yeah, it's been theirs for the last 3 weeks, close to a month. Yeah, I would say,
if not further.
We have been speaking about it
unofficially, but officially. Yeah.
Not officially, but they had both hands on the trophy for a while.
As it sits there, 12 points ahead of Arsenal. They're on 83. Who do they play next week? They
play Crystal, I think.
Yeah, is it? And it's at Anfield. Jeez, those tickets are big selling for a bit. So, yeah, potential to go 86 on the season, which is incredible.
Yeah,
have 85 goals. That is 15 more than City. And their goal difference at 45 is 11 better than Arsenal. So, head and shoulders above anyone. And congratulations. It does feel like old news, though, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
And Arne Slot gets it done.
Yep. Partying up in Ibiza as well.
Yeah. Old Slot machine. Should we talk some beefs into some F1?
Yes. To the final round.
Let's do it. Was a couple of weeks ago in Montreal, but UFC 315 happened, and new champion of the welterweight division, Aussie Jack Della Maddalena, defeats the champion Bilal Muhammad. Incredible 5-round war in this one. I think when the bell went, we all probably had the feeling that Jack had done enough. It was going to be, did the judges see eye to eye, which often isn't the case in the UFC, and was it going to be 4-1 or 3-2?
Yeah.
So 2 judges had it 4-1, 1 judge had it 3-2. Unanimous decision. Jack Della Maddalena is champion of the welterweight division. Shauno, what was your take on this fight? And what's next in the welterweight division?
Yeah, well, I thought that was the result. I thought he won at least 3 rounds, and I could argue the other 2. So yeah, the one judge saw it for him, one of those, and that's how he gets the unanimous win. It's quite interesting kind of game plan out of Muhammad, and give Delhi credit that he jabbed really well, kept him at the distance he wanted, and then could land his combinations. And for any of Muhammad's takedown attempts, which there were a fair few.
He shot a lot.
He managed to stifle them, because I think it was interesting, some of the comments recently from Muhammad saying, I went against the game plan. It was to go out there and wrestle and take him down and beat him up. And yes, maybe he should have done that earlier in round 1 instead of trying to strike with him. But as time went on, he was too slippery. And I think Delhi, probably to his credit, had improved for what you've seen his wrestling in the past anyway. So I thought it was a pretty impressive all-round win for him, and it was great to get our second current Australian champion and our third overall. It was a great there, and looking forward to a Perth card coming up. Potentially having both Volk and Delhi on it defending their championships would be very, very cool.
Yeah, it's the first time that we've ever had 2 current champions. We've had multiple in the past, but never at the same time. So that's massive to go from having 0 champions just 6 weeks ago.
Yep.
To now
like
having
the boys got it done.
Having 2. Yeah, so good with Volk a few weeks beforehand. Let's talk about Delhi a little bit. So trained in MMA since about the age of 16. Rugby background before then. I think decided to focus on his MMA through his late teens. His gym's called Scrappy MMA. Good name for a gym out of Perth. Actually lost the first 2 fights of his career. Watching him in interviews, he was pretty hungry, and in hindsight, probably took some fights that he maybe shouldn't have as a young man, and then just went on an absolute rampage. So leading into this, he had 17 in a row. That's 18 wins now for JDM, and it got the eye of Dana from him getting a gig on the Contender Series 39. And then I believe he won that, and then goes into the UFC, and then goes 7-0, now 8-0 actually in the UFC, including a lot of finishes and some wins against some pretty handy guys in Gilbert Burns and Kevin Holland, and now obviously beats the champ Bilal Muhammad. He was due to fight Leon Edwards, and then they pulled out because he needed to step in for the Shavkat Rakhmonov fight, so gets the opportunity. And I think he had preparation time as well.
That helped.
Volk fighting Islam on 11 days' notice comes to mind. Yeah. He had a full camp to go into it, and stylistically knew that he was probably the better striker. So if he could avoid getting taken down, which he did incredibly well with the takedown defense, could give himself a fighting shot, and won a few of those rounds convincingly as well. So credit to him. Good to see all his family over there in Montreal in the octagon with him post fight, and it's going to be now start talking about title defences.
To cover that, Islam's coming up, so most likely he'll have Islam next.
Called him out, didn't he? He said he's going to avenge Volk or beat him up for Volk or something along those lines, didn't he?
Yeah, we'll get him back for Volk. And with that means Tapurio, who's coming up, is going to get Oliveira for the lightweight belt after stripping it. Because I did want to say there's only one American champion at the moment.
I wanted to ask.
And it's John Jones.
Oh.
Who's, hasn't fought in ages, and they haven't stripped him. He's been holding on to the belt. So if that ever happens, then Aspen being The Pommy will mean there is no American champions in the UFC.
And it actually means whether. Oh, I know the Russians. There's 2 Russian champs and 2 Aussie champs at the moment. I was going to say we're the toughest country in the world, but we're equal with the Russians. And the Russians that I've met in my life have been scary. So fair enough. But yeah, current weights, current champs, heavyweight, John Jones, Aspinall interim. So even that one has an asterisk for the Yanks. And then Ankalaev in light heavyweight, DDP in middleweight, JDM in welterweight, Islam in lightweight, Volk in feather.
Islam's been vacated.
That's vacated too.
So, yeah.
Oh, so we are the toughest country in the world.
Yep.
Yeah, bitch. And then Marav Dvalishvili in bantamweight and Alexandra Pantoja in flyweight. Is Pena still bantamweight champion?
Maybe.
It says it on Wiki. It's got to be right.
I thought she maybe vacated.
Yeah, I thought so.
She's been sitting there waiting for Nunes to come back. I can't remember.
Well, the girl that we'll get to in a second, Shevchenko, is definitely flyweight champ, and Zhang Wei Li is strawweight. So yeah, it's also.
I want to make an interesting point on that because with Islam vacating, there isn't a lot of carryover champs. There's been a big turnover in the in the title champions from recent time. So yeah, it's not to say the UFC is struggling for stars, as you will, but they're probably looking for some blokes to stand up and become the next face of the UFC.
I think it's good, man. You see new faces coming through. We're seeing obviously.
Well, Volk's probably caveat on Volk. He's also been there for 4 years before that, being the champion.
Had to get it back.
Yeah, had to get it back. So he's probably one of the bigger faces, and we'll see what Islam does now going up into welterweight to take on Jack.
You know where the established champs are in the girls. Zhang Wei Li's got 3 defenses. Shevchenko only one
Just
on
got
this
back.
run, but and we'll get to her in a second. Arguably one of the best female fighters of all time. So yeah, big turnover certainly in the boys, and seems to be a big trend for internationals getting belts.
Yep.
Let's talk about Valentina Shevchenko. She was actually the underdog in this fight against Manon Fury. It was a good fight. It was a good fight, but obviously Bullet still got it. She's the current pound-for-pound champ in the women's. It's the first time actually she's had a title fight against someone that wasn't Alexa Grasso in recent times. So you had to go back to 2022 for the Talia Santos fight.
Who she lost her belt to, and then she had to get it back. I think that makes sense from memory. I don't think she fights that often.
So she's 37, Bullet now. That's... you'd think coming towards the end of an illustrious career.
Yeah, I think, did she call out Nunes post this fight? I think she did. There was a bit of talk about settling that old score of who's the greatest women's fighter of all time.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Where does she rank currently?
Well, she's fought Nunes twice, I believe, and lost both times, both coming up. But I think the first fight was a 3-round fight, and I feel like she won it, but didn't get the judge's decision in that. It was a very close fight. And the second one, she was a bit more handily beaten by Nunes in that one.
Nunes definitely ranks first in most people's books. I've got a ESPN article up here which has her 1 ahead of Cyborg.
I'm not sure what Cyborg. I would have Bullet above Cyborg.
So would you currently have Bullet 2?
Yeah. Against above Cyborg and Ronda, definitely.
Ronda, definitely didn't have the length. The thing that Ronda did is that she got the female
legitimacy.
Legitimacy.
Like
she took it to superstardom. She was the first chick superstar, wasn't she? Really?
Yeah. But for a GOAT conversation, no, unfortunately not.
And then Joanna rounding out the top 5. I reckon there's a bit of a drop off after those names there. Yeah, I'd agree with you. I'd say Nunes 1, Shevchenko 2 at the moment. Nunes currently retired. How old is Nunes? So would it ever happen? And
I don't think she's that old.
1988, she's same age, 30. She's actually a touch younger. So if she wanted to potentially come out of retirement for the right price.
What do you got there, Jimmy?
Yeah, possibly.
I'm just running through it. I think Shevchenko's sort of been saying that it's probably not a good idea. She should stay retired.
Yeah, she retired for a reason. She was at the top, and
she's got 2 young kids.
That too, yeah. maybe lost a little bit of the interest in it. So, but if she ever wants to come back, it's there.
Yeah. So she says, I feel fighters when they're not active anymore, but they were at the top and had all this attention, they are missing this feeling.
Can you check Julia there? I just want to see her, because I know Nunes won the belt back, then vacated it. I see Pena hasn't defended that belt. So did she beat someone to win it, or did they just give her the belt?
Pennington.
Yeah, she beat Pennington.
That's 9 months ago.
Hasn't fought since. Well, she took 2 years off after losing to Nunes the first time. So yeah, I don't think Bullock's going to fight Penny anytime soon. I think the talk's more about if she comes up again, it'll be for a Nunes return fight.
Yep.
Which is wild to think about. But.
Yeah, crazy. Anything else to talk about from that card? I've got the undercard.
Jose Aldo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pretty competitive scrap. Was close to winning this fight and then gassed out afterwards, and which is unfortunate.
Against Zahabi.
Zahabi, yeah. Does retire officially. So the second time he's retired? I feel like he retired before and then came back to bantamweight. But yeah, that retires him. I have seen recently he's in his retirement, he's becoming a bodybuilder. So
really,
we'll see how big he gets, considering he fought in 145 and 135. You never know, might be get to 200 and then you come back as a welterweight. Like
in the enhanced games fight or the UFC in the 90s, as it was known. So a fair few losses for him later in his career. I was asking you about this as well. Where does Jose Aldo rank in terms of featherweights? You maybe had him ahead of Volk. I think the Aussie in me was like, no way, I've got to stick with my boy Volk being the best featherweight of all time. But
it depends on your criteria and time. Like Volk's very close. If he spends another year or two in this, he'll have spent more time as champion than Aldo ever did. I think just Aldo's growth from WEC, I think it was WEC, of owning that belt for so long and dominating and taking over, and then the names that he beat in featherweight before he got Conor McGregor. And you got to talk about where does Conor fit in it. Probably is more of a UFC star considering winning the first double champion versus like the longevity of Aldo, because Conor never defended either of his belts.
But McGregor did taint the legacy of Aldo in 13 seconds back in UFC 194. Crazy to think that's coming up on 10 years ago since that happened. I think a lot of similarities with Jose and Anderson Silva's career in that dominated their division for a number of years, and in their prime, probably the best in their division, and then just kept fighting, and then they take damage and losses, and you start to think,
they're doing fun fights, and they're cashing in the money.
Fighting against warriors, like, his losses recently, Dvalishvili and Petty Yan and Volk and Marlon Moraes, it's not like he's getting beat by bums, but you're also thinking...
You're the pinnacle of the divisions.
Yeah, exactly. And he's in his mid-30s and copping a bunch of L's later in his career. Does that taint his legacy? Or, the OGs remember how good he was when he was at the top of the world. But yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm Australian or and I can't be impartial here, or the fact that Volk hasn't had the same number of losses. Yes, we have seen in the last 18 months cop a few bad losses.
There's the fights against Islam, how much does that taint his legacy, if you will, compared to the Aldo and Conor McGregor? So it's interesting.
But yeah,
I think they're in the conversation, and you probably throw Max Holloway in there as a third. So so they've had great careers in the featherweight division. And
Max fans will come out and say, "Oh, Max deserved to be champ," when the decision went the other way in one of those Volk fights. But for mine, he just hasn't held the belt long enough to be considered. Also happy for him to be in the conversation. But my GOAT in the featherweight division is Alexander Volkanovski.
Yep.
Get at us in the comments. Let us know who you think is the GOAT of the featherweight division. And thank you for your entertainment, Jose Aldo. And good luck with the bodybuilding. Yeah, see how big he can get. He's 5'7". Yeah, 5'7". So I think anything over sort of, we'll get to 200. I don't know about pushing much bigger than that. No. Jose Aldo.
Yeah, you don't want to get up to 100 kegs. Play front row.
Like Volk?
Yes, like Volk.
All right, let's finish off with some F1.
Yeah, press the button. Give us some new.
Bastian Vettel.
Yeah, so I guess quick notes. Oscar, Max, and Lando kind of have separated themselves from the pack. They're the three at the moment competing for the Drivers' Championship, and of course the only winners of races so far this year. Max looked pretty dominant, honestly, at Imola. I guess the Red Bull on a high-speed course was very, very good. It'll be interesting to see Monaco tonight, as we said, in an hour. How that kind of plays out, the difference, more tight street circuit, not a lot of, big open, high-speed corners, as you will, compared to what Imola was. So we'll see how that goes. Lando does get pole. He starts on pole. I think a lot of the guys behind him won't be too worried about that. His record from starting from pole and converting into wins is dreadful. So hopefully for Lando's sake, he can do all right. As we've seen for his first corner yips, let's hope no one whacks into him. He will. Leclerc will start next to him, so I think that will mean Oscar will actually start behind him in the alternating grid. So as long as Oscar doesn't whack him in the back. And then Max is in fourth after Lewis had a 3-spot penalty for impeding in qualifying to Max, so he'll start seventh. And Harjo in fifth there is pretty good for, what are they called now? They're not Visa Cash Up anymore, whatever.
Racing Bull.
Racing Bull,
Honda.
yeah, RB, whatever it is. So that'll be an interesting race. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. Last year was very much a procession. Guy that gets through first corner is usually going to win this race. So we'll see, unless there's a big tyre kind of.
It's the pit stop strategy that can.
Pirelli's been pushing for more 2-stop races as well, to make it a bit more challenging instead of just a 1-stop race. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. But the talk with 2026 and cars hopefully getting a little bit smaller, maybe potentially it'll allow for more overtaking in Monaco, because it's very, very difficult now with a tight street circuit and big walls on either side of you as you run through.
Is there anywhere that overtakes can occur? I'm looking at the track now.
Turn 10, I think, is the main one. Maybe into 6, which is the big hairpin if you get it just right. But with the size of the cars, it's very, very difficult. And if you're on the racing line, it's very hard to make an issue in there. 17 at Razkaz as well. It's probably the only other spot you can maybe dive in there. But like I said, very, very hard. And any of the high-speed corners, unless you're right on top of the guy, DRS really has no effect in this one, unfortunately.
It's crazy watching a bit more Drive to Survive recently. The missus getting really, really into it.
Yep.
The street courses, when they've got the footage off the car, and you're like, Jesus, it looks narrow when you're watching the race.
Yeah.
When you're in the cockpit,
it looks like wall. They're on rails.
That's all it looks like.
Yeah, well, you see how close they get to the wall, tires almost touching. It's
giving me anxiety.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
going 200-300 kilometers an hour.
and
Incredible.
The cars have gotten much bigger since this race, of course, had started. So since F1 started in Monaco, so it's a bit of a different look. So it's very, very difficult, but they do go very, very quick around the street circuit. But as we saw in the FP2 and the Porsche race beforehand, they're make turn 1 into a car park very quickly. So we'll have to see if anything happens in the F1. A lot of rookies as well this year that have been struggling a little bit. So there might be a few crashes, and anything happens on this one, it's very hard to clear. So red flags and safety cars is very, very high chance.
I was also asking you boys pre-show, where does Monaco rank on the calendar for F1 in terms of intrigue and prestige and history? It's got to be right up there, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely one of the most iconic races.
It depends. You could say Japan. Yes, and one have the same sort of illustrious and all the money thrown around it, but the circuit is a lot famous. So the actual race course, and then the same was Spa. Spa's a very famous race course, but the event that happens
It's all
around,
the shit outside that makes Monaco so famous.
So you could say
the actual racing itself sounds like it's
exactly. You
not
get all these dudes showing
that
up in
exciting.
yachts. And I saw a video. I saw a picture of a bloke in his yacht, and he had a $3 million Ferrari on the deck of it. So it's like the money side of it's very big. You know, Miami's trying to kind of capture some of that as well. But then you got to think of the Arab nations, Abu Dhabi and Qatar, and you know what they can put on again money wise, but they don't have say the same mystique that the track does.
There's no history.
So Monaco is probably the glitz and glamour combined with the history of the course is definitely very, very up there.
You know, one that I like as an absolute casual, Singapore at night.
Nighttime.
Nighttime.
Seeing all the overhead shots of
pretty
that.
cool.
Definitely.
But yeah, for someone that's, you know, recently sort of, you know, followed the F1 due to my mates being fans and, you know, each year getting more and more interested. My memory was always that Monaco is a big race in terms of
Monaco's almost synonymous with F1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it amongst that. When you think F1, you think places in the world, Monaco certainly comes to mind.
Definitely. And it's a good time to get into F1 as an Australian fan. Go Oscar.
Mate, sure is.
Mate, I've been here since day dot. I've been here since Mark Webber was doing go-karts at Queanbeyan, bro.
Let's go.
All right. That'll do us, I think, here on the Esky. We are an Aussie sports podcast. We like our Aussie sport. We like our world and US sport. In a couple of weeks' time, we're going to chat all things cricket because we are, 3 weeks away? 2.5, I think, from the World Test Championship over there at Lords. So we'll talk all things leading into that. And then we're not actually that far away from the tour of the West Indies. We will be right in the thick of it for
India and England. It'll be starting in June as well.
Yeah, so fair bit of cricket to talk there. We'll be in the thick of it for footy season. The NBA finals. We'll know which two teams are going at it and how far along we are there. Plus,
State of Origin game 2.
Yep, State of Origin. Plus the usual UFC, F1, sprinkled in boxing sometimes, and golf and whatever else is going on in the world.
That's it.
Thanks for the listen. Check us out on socials if you're finding us for the first time. And please, if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Mention the podcast to a friend. Talk about it at the water cooler, at work, or whatever shit you do.
Especially if you're sitting on the esky.
All right. We'll see you in a week, in 2 weeks, I should say. Catch up.
Bye.
Bye.